We're going to hone in on just a standard sort of search campaign and how we get
Mhm.
this started. So, what we're going to do, we're going to go through, I'm actually going to create a campaign. How does that sound, Ollie?
Let's do it.
All right. What could go wrong? A live demo. All right, mate. So, you're the expert. You got to tell me where to click. I have
Yeah.
clicked on the new campaign.
Yeah. So self-explanatory, come into new campaign. I'll try to talk through these different things and sort of what they mean and where sometimes Google might try to lean you one way, but sometimes it's not in your best interest. They're trying to get you to spend a little more money. But first up, the campaign objectives. So interesting enough with this, whichever one you click, it doesn't actually change the performance of your campaign. I believe all it changes is just the way they will recommend stuff to you. So
Mhm.
if you're a beginner and you're trying to set something up, maybe it is good to click on one of these. But at 5x5, we'll always go with just creating a campaign without any guidance. So the bottom right one there, because we believe we're smarter than it at times. So we like to make our own decisions. So we always create the campaign without guidance.
All right. So I click that one.
Mhm.
It then forces us to decide on what is the campaign type. What are we trying to get done here?
Yeah, so these were all the ones we just ran through then.
Yep.
Today we're going to be talking about search. So as the example we showed, it's just coming up when someone searches your keywords.
Awesome.
Conversions, this one already set up for us and we won't dive into it. We could do a whole nother webinar on this and how to track conversions, but basically that's just how you're tracking a lead from the ad. So whether that is a purchased product, whether that is a phone call, a form being submitted, all
Yep.
that thing. It's just making sure you're tracking that because you need to make sure you're tracking that and you need to make sure you're tracking it accurately as well.
Yeah. So just zooming out a little bit, like this is what we've defined success as, and in this instance, this is actually it's for my wife's business who happens to run a day spa. So in her instance, we've got three conversion goals. We can track people who physically like do a search, go through to the website, and then book an appointment. Secondly, we can track phone leads. So someone's done a search, they come through to the site, and there's a dynamic number that's displayed on the site. We can then track who calls through and or clicks on a mobile search through the mobile. And then finally, she's selling gift vouchers, so we can track the purchases through that. And then that's all been set up through GA4, Google Analytics 4, which is the analytics platform system. And that's very much intertwined with the ad system. Did I say anything misleading or false there, Ollie?
Nah, that was good.
Okay.
There is different ways you can set up the conversions. That's just how we set it up for this account. So setting it up in
Cool.
GA4 and bringing it across. With more complex accounts, often with e-commerce and stuff, it might have to be done differently. You can actually do it
Yeah.
within Google Ads and sometimes get different results. But that's something you should be testing at the start of your campaign and yeah, something that usually the experts would do when they take over an account like this.
Awesome. Okay. So we continue on. What are the results that we want from this campaign?
Yeah, so let's click website visits. It'll just give us that little head start if we put in the website, and it'll start to give us, when we get to the part about the keywords and stuff, it'll really crawl the website and give us some suggestions.
Yep.
And then phone calls, we can always chuck in the phone as well if you have it handy.
We're going to give this a campaign name of
Mhm.
test.
Yeah,
Uh,
so
uh,
when naming campaigns, obviously you can name it based on what the goal of it is and
yeah.
everything like that. But today's is just a little dummy
That's not a
campaign.
very meaningful name at all, is it?
And then we get to the bidding part. So without going into too much depth here, it's pretty sort of set there. Conversions, I would usually start, especially with a fresh account, I would start always with maximize clicks. Again, without going into too much depth, basically the reason for that is we just want to get as much data as we can before we start maximizing for conversions. So starting with maximize clicks, setting a max cost per click bid limit's probably smart, especially if you're not going to be monitoring an account 24/7. If you're just going to set it and sort of come back in a day or two, set it around that $15 mark just to make sure it doesn't go too crazy, but it shouldn't be spending really that much anyway.
$15 for a click.
And depending on the
Um,
industry, like there is
yeah.
industries where, and obviously 5x5 is sort of one of them that has quite expensive clicks. Um,
What are we paying
but
for a click on average off the top of your head?
I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but I know it's around that number, if not north,
Yeah, cool.
for a click. But
Okay.
again, that's with a very mature account. We're paying for
Yeah.
that for a reason because we've optimized it and fine-tuned it down to really only paying for people that we think are going to convert.
Yeah. Well, we're going to show you an example where that's much, much lower. But
Yes.
then in other industries like
Law can get pretty expensive as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
I
all
believe.
the personal injury stuff.
Yeah.
I know like out of Sydney and it's hyper competitive. They'll pay like 100, $150 a click.
Wow.
Because yeah, the payoff is there and yeah. So anyway, it just what we're trying to say here is it varies from industry to industry, product to product.
Yep.
All right. So we go next. What are we
Yes.
doing here?
So you can see there again, they've already filled in and clicked the including the search partners and the display network. So Google's already done that for you. I would unclick these majority of the time. Basically, that's just going to have you put on multiple different networks and partners to Google. At the moment, we don't need that. We just want to make sure we can get the best bang for buck. And again, this is just Google sort of trying to spend a little bit extra. So they try to include search partners and things like that.
Yep.
Later down the track with a more mature campaign, you can start to test these things and include it and see if it does increase your performance. But at the start, I'd always leave it unclicked.
Okay. Location, we can get very, very granular around location.
Yeah, so you can target right down to the postcode and everything like that.
So this is the actual
Yeah.
postcode. You probably wouldn't go that granular for us. Well, in my wife's specific business, it'd be like Gold Coast wide. So we
Yeah.
can see that that's broadened the reach
Yeah. And then
significantly.
just one little tip there as well. Although you are targeting the Gold Coast, sometimes it is good to separate via postcode. Just for the fact that later down the track, you can actually see the different performance levels on each postcode. So at the moment, it'll just give us all the data on Gold Coast as a whole as one
Yeah,
thing.
right.
Once you separate by postcode and doing different things like that, and then you can turn it up and down like that as well. But at the moment, for the sake of this, let's just do Gold Coast. And then, yeah, what you've got hovering over there, always click that little location options like John's just done, because it'll have pre-ticked the presence or interest option, but we don't usually want that. The reason for that is it's even if people are just interested in the area you're targeting, like the Gold Coast, they can get our ads, which they're probably not going to convert if they're in Western Australia, but they've just been searching a bunch of stuff about the Gold Coast. We want to make sure they're actually in the Gold Coast.
Cool. Language is pretty straightforward. Like, here in Australia, it's typically going to be English. But if you were targeting a specific audience and that audience identified their native language, then you can get specific around that. Segments, probably. Do we gloss over this, mate, or
Yeah, we can just
high-level
gloss
summary?
over it. I guess it's just you can add a bunch of audiences and again see the data based off these audiences. So if people from beauty and wellness or beauty and personal care, if they start clicking on your ads and you've included that audience, it'll show that data for you. And you can if you click the targeting option down the bottom, it'll narrow the reach of the campaign for the people you're choosing as well. So not needed at the moment. We won't go into too much depth there, but there is opportunities there. And then getting down to automatically created assets, that can be of benefit sometimes. It's basically, we'll just use the landing page that we've given it and things to grab certain either images or words on the page and try to give you suggestions. But at the moment, we'll leave that off. So this next screen, you can sort of see, we didn't actually put those keywords in. It's literally just grabbed that based on the URL we've given it above.
Yep.
And to be fair, some of them aren't actually that bad, but then you will have a bunch in there that are pretty bad as well. So just be careful.
Bar day.
World Spa. I'm not sure what World.
Yeah. Like that's probably a good example of like what does that actually mean?
Yeah. So yeah,
most right, aren't they? Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes you can look through even Eden Day Spa. There's another one in there, but look through. Use a bit of common sense and make sure that it is sort of what you want. And this is where, and we'll touch on keyword research and having someone like an agency actually work on your keyword research to make sure they know what they're targeting, how much it's going to cost is very crucial here. But for the sake of this, we're just going to use what Google's given us.
Yeah.
And then this is really where you get into writing the ad copy. So again, usually you'd want this left up to someone knowing what they're doing so they can actually write copy that. And when I say copy, I'm just referring to the headlines and the descriptions in the Google ads. in the search ads. So you want to leave that up to someone that really knows what they're doing, writing to make sure that they get the clicks, not only the clicks, but the conversions as well. So yeah, as John's done there, Facials is one of the services at Earth and Skin. And you can see it'll actually show up with the URL at the top there. In the
just over
example
here.
ad, and then same too with the headlines. If you put in your keywords into the headlines, into descriptions, make sure you're writing these so they actually generate some urgency, stand out against the other ads in the search results as well. So looking at what other ads are there, what can we do different to stand out? Can we provide an offer in the headline? Can we make sure we include our keywords, things like that?
There you go. I'm just doing this on the fly. Gold Coast best facials. I'm sure there is a much better headline that can be written there, but just demonstrating how you can preview.
How it shows up.
Yeah. And this is a whole science in and around like direct response copywriting, like you said, urgency, features and benefits, all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And without doing this stuff and really spending the time or the money with someone that actually knows what they're doing, you end up wasting a lot of money as well. So if you don't know what you're doing, sometimes it's best to leave it up to the professionals.
So a whole bunch of configurations there. You put in your descriptions as well, which is usually 2 or 3 lines of text below the actual headline. Images where relevant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they'll pop up, especially I see them a lot more on mobile, but desktop still sometimes. They'll pop up on the right there of the ad.
Business name.
Self-explanatory.
That ties into GMB, is that right?
No, so GMBs actually will already be linked. So you can see how it's popping up in the Mudgera bar there. It's already actually linked because we've used this account a bunch before. Business name just pops up the top. Business logo will just pop up to the left of your search ad as well.
A whole bunch of configuration stuff here.
There's a bunch of different extensions is what they call them. Basically just add-ons you can have to your search ads.
Yep. So this is probably like the final screen where we'll end this, but just showing, in the demo, but around budget. So talk to us about budget, Ollie, and what would be your recommendations here?
Yeah, so again, Google's always going to have their recommended thing to do. As you can see, they're recommending it at about $20 a day. That's not necessarily the right way to go about it, depending on how much budget you have, depending on what other campaigns you're running. There's, again, a whole nother strategy behind that as well and how you distribute your budgets. But often I would, set a custom budget based on how much you can afford to spend. And then obviously that's a daily budget as well. So that's saying $15 a day, multiply that over a month, and then you have your monthly budget.
Cool. And look, it's highly fluid in the fact that, you set your budget, you'll see what sort of results you get, and it's sort of like the campaign needs a bunch of data to start off with. So it's almost like the mindset is like, give it some budget, give it an opportunity for the system to learn about the product and the users and how they convert and all that sort of stuff. And then that's where the refinement comes into play.